Hi, everybody. We just published a breaking news story out of our Epstein investigative team. Nina Burley, who writes our newsletter, American Freak Show. If you don't read it already, you should. Spoke to Amanda Angaro and has published the interview in its entirety at her newsletter that just dropped. There are some bombshells in this interview. So for folks who don't know, a quick refresher, Amanda Angaro is a former model who was part of the same agency as Melania. She was a partner for over 20 years to Paolo Zampoli, who is still in the White House, a close confidant and friend of Trump's, and who got her deported out of Florida, where she was living. They were in a custody battle over their son. She was picked up by police. He had her transferred to ICE, and then ultimately she was deported back to Brazil, where she is today. She knows Melania and Trump very well. Her former spouse, Paolo, takes credit for having introduced Trump and Melania. That is disputed, but he is very proud to take credit for that. And Amanda, most notably probably, tweeted at Melania a number of times just days before Melania's incredibly bizarre press conference at the White House the other day. So she has a lot of information that hasn't been reported on. We report on some of that here in Nina's story. Please check it out at epsteincoverup.us. Share it widely. This is a story that is still developing. There is still a lot of questions we do not have answers to about why Melania did that press conference, what she's protecting herself from, how she emigrated here exactly, and if that was legal or not. And she clearly does not want this information out there. Neither does Paolo, who preemptively put out a post on social media the other day threatening anyone who wrote about him or his son that he would sue them. This is a really important story. Obviously, it's a continuing developing story, but there's a lot of bombshells in Amanda's interview. So please go check it out at epsteincoverup.us and share it widely. We have got to keep the Epstein cover-up in the news. The cover-up is the crime, and it is continuing. It is happening in real time, and so we at Courier are covering it in real time. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the weekend and probably get off these sites a little bit. Bye.
Melania's bizarre 6-minute statement last week, denying her connection to Jeffrey Epstein, sparked internet rumors that were soon a breaking story the Trump administration was hoping to get in front of. In her interview with Courier, her first interview with an English language media outlet, Amanda Angaro answered some of our most pressing questions. Angaro says her story began when she was just 15 years old, when she first met Paolo Zampoli, a businessman with deep ties to both Donald and Melania Trump. She says he pursued her relentlessly, eventually pulling her into a relationship that would define and control her life. According to Angaro, Zampoli was an operator in the modeling underworld, someone who arranged visas, managed models, and moved people through powerful networks behind the scenes. Through him, she met Melania and Epstein and Donald Trump. Angaro says Zampoli had ties to Jeffrey Epstein, although he denies this, and that he acted as a recruiter of young women like her. She also suggests that stories about relationships within this circle, including Melania's, were shaped by influence and long-term planning. Angaro describes years of alleged abuse, psychological, physical, and sexual. She claims she was surveilled, followed, and controlled. She says their home was filled with hidden devices, and that her life became something closer to captivity than partnership. In public, she was close to the most powerful people in America. Zampoli was so tight with Trump that the couple sat at the Trump table at both inaugurations and spent holidays with the Trump family, attended events at the White House and gatherings at Mar-a-Lago. But that proximity to power did not help when Angaro says Zampoli had her deported to Brazil and separated from her son. She is caught in an ongoing legal battle. She says Melania ignored her plea for help, and she says she's willing to testify before Congress. Melania's 6-minute statement may have been an attempt to shut something down, but it also might have revealed the weak link in the Epstein cover-up.
We have breaking developments regarding Melania Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and their possible relationship, along with Paolo Zampoli and Amanda Angaro. This morning, Courier released a new interview with Amanda Angaro, who has made explosive allegations about Melania Trump, about her ex-partner, Paolo Zampoli, and more. Let's go through some of them. If you recall, Zampoli called ICE to get Angaro deported. She was asked about that by Courier. Her reaction? Well, she said that she tried to reach Melania Trump through contacts, that Melania was aware of the situation but did nothing. Angaro goes on to say, quote, her reaction was one of indifference regarding what was happening to me. It seemed to me that Melania, together with her husband, has a pact with Paolo Zampoli. Paolo constructed a false narrative, claiming that he was the one who introduced Melania to her husband. And not only do I know this isn't true, but everyone knows it isn't true. Now, both Melania and Zampoli have both denied it. When asked about Melania's relationship with Epstein, Angaro says that everything made no sense. The whole thing felt strange, made no sense. It was as if their relationship had been pre-programmed, like a specific project that Paolo had meticulously architected, solely to claim the power and credit for having orchestrated their meeting. She went on to say that everything that is unfolding now was in fact part of their original plan. Now, Zampoli has denied being involved with Epstein socially or in business. Zampoli is currently a Trump official, by the way. Another one, can you characterize Melania's relationship with Zampoli? She says, Zampoli always portrayed himself as one who initiated the relationship. It always seemed to me that Paolo had some hidden leverage over Melania's life, something that kept her in his thrall. It was a business arrangement. It seems to me an agreement from which both parties stood to benefit. That's what Angaro told Courier. I spent the past several weeks since Melania Trump came out and started talking about her relationship or lack thereof with Epstein and Maxwell researching this. And this adds a lot of color to what we've been able to find behind the scenes. I'll have more updates for you soon. Spread the word. Follow along for more.
First Lady last week called on Congress to further look into and uncover the truth on the Epstein files, the Epstein saga. Do you believe that there should be a public hearing for more of these Epstein survivors?
Well, I'm okay with it. I think we've had a lot of public hearings. I'm okay with it, but I understand that the women didn't want to go under oath.
Donald, stop it.
That's what I heard, that the women, the victims or whatever, they refused to go under oath, which was a little surprising. So Melania felt strongly about it because she was accused of that I met her through Epstein, but it turned out to be totally false. It was a false story.
That whatever is a reference to little girls, little boys, daughters, sons, some of them dead because of men like you. This is the President of the United States of America, again, belittling survivors of a child trafficking ring, belittling those that can still tell their story, saying, whatever.
Want to do a little Epstein as well with you. President Trump has apparently said that he's okay with the survivors having a public hearing. Do you believe that?
Of course I believe that, because he's setting them up for failure. I thought Melania was setting them up for failure too. I mean, and the survivors said this themselves. It's not their responsibility to testify in front of Congress. It's their responsibility to give information to law enforcement, which they did, right? Like, law enforcement hasn't done the job. So what I've been saying, what I've been screaming for, like, at the top of my lungs for the past week is that this is just Todd Blanche is newly installed as acting attorney general. They want to throw the heat off of the Department of Justice as it relates to Epstein. And so what are they going to do? Oh, Congress, it's your responsibility now. Hold a hearing. And if you don't hold a hearing, then Blanche will say, well, we gave them the opportunity and they didn't hold a hearing. That's all that's happening here. They're setting the survivors up for failure. And I mean, Trump says victims or whatever. I mean, a derogatory remark about the survivors. And as far as Melania Trump thing goes, I think that she's been personally peeved about everyone talking about her connection, a valid connection to Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. You have an email, a very friendly email, mind you, where she wants to talk with Maxwell on the phone. I think she's upset that people keep talking about it, and she just wants to do her own thing, and she wants to get out in front of something that's coming out.
Breaking news. Amanda Angaro talks about Melania's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Who is in this file? She kept on mentioning Donald. She mentioned Melania. And she mentioned herself. Who is in the files?
Melania Trump's dark past is surfacing, and it's not looking good for Melania. I know 2 weeks back she tried to hold that press conference where she said, anybody out there who's talking about me, they're liars. There is no connection between myself and Epstein or Ghislaine. The photos aren't real. The emails are fake. Don't believe anything. By the way, in Iran, their social media accounts started mocking Melania and Donald by doing AI Lego videos called Epstein Queen. But going back to Melania's dark past surfacing, a new interview between the Courier and that witness who Melania feared the most, that has now just hit the wire, and this could be deeply, deeply damaging for Melania. Amanda Ungaro gave an interview with the Courier, and she was asked, did Melania personally threaten you? If so, in what way and when? And Angaro said, Melania felt threatened, and while she did not threaten me directly, she knows that I witnessed highly compromising interactions over the course of 20 years, referring to Paolo Zampoli, the boyfriend of Amanda Angaro. Remember the video I made of Amanda Angaro last week? The witness Melania feared the most. Melania and Angaro knew each other for a very long time. Angaro says that she met Paolo Zampoli when she was only 15 years old, is what she says. She went on to become Paolo Zampoli's girlfriend. Later on, they had a child together. She's, by the way, from Brazil. She's an immigrant from Brazil. Obviously, Melania from Slovenia. Paolo Zampoli ran a modeling agency where he would bring in young women and girls from Eastern Europe, Brazil, and elsewhere for his modeling agency. And then he would throw parties in the 1990s at the Kit Kat Club, where the models would meet wealthy Manhattan businessmen like Donald Trump, and Paolo Zampoli would play matchmaker, and then he would help the models expedite their immigration status through Einstein visas for the models like Melania Trump. If you know what I'm saying, that's how Melania expedited her visas after meeting Donald Trump. She got an Einstein visa.
Do you think what she's saying is the truth? Everyone is asking, where did she came from all along? Because we've been looking for who is in the files. Now she started mentioning names. It might be true.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
Are you sure, Melania?
The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania. The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings. Numerous fake images and statements about Epstein and me have been circulating on social media for years now. Be cautious about what you believe. These images and stories are completely false. I'm not a witness or a named witness in connection with any of Epstein's crimes. My name has never appeared in court documents, depositions, victim statements, or FBI interviews surrounding the Epstein matter. I have never had any knowledge of Epstein abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island. I have never been legally accused or convinced of a crime in connection with Epstein's sex trafficking, abuse of minors, and other repulsive behavior. The false smears about me from mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals and entities looking to cause damage to my good name, to gain financially and climb politically, must stop. My attorneys and I have fought these unfounded and baseless lies with success and will continue to maintain my sound reputation without hesitation. To date, several individuals and companies have been legally obligated to publicly apologize and retract their lies about me, such as Daily Beast, James Carville, and HarperCollins, UK. Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record. Then, and only then, we will have the truth. Thank you.
For Secretary Lutnick to continue serving.
Well, we might know why Melania had her crazy press conference last week. This story was broke by Courier News and their independent journalist, Nina Burleigh. They interviewed Amanda Angaro, a former model and friend of Melania's, who was deported when her husband, who she's in a custody battle with, Zampoli, called ICE. He's actually the one that brought her into the U.S. He's a former business partner of Trump's, and he's now his special envoy for global partnerships. She was asked how Trump and Melania met, and she said she witnessed many compromising interactions over the last 20 years, and she would be willing to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee. She said that Zampoli introduced her to Melania and claims that while Melania was in a relationship with Trump, she was already earning money while undocumented. And Zampoli was the one responsible for getting visas for models coming in from outside the United States. And she knows this because he got her visa. And she claims that he was responsible for recruiting for Epstein. And she said that it always seemed to her that Zampoli had something over Melania because their relationship was always initiated by him, that Melania was not reaching out to keep that friendship alive. So we will see what happens as this story unfolds. But once again, just to be clear, Melania doesn't care about anybody but herself.
Amanda Angaro just gave an interview, and the details are quite explosive. She places herself directly inside the same world that connects Melania Trump, Paolo Zampoli, and the modeling pipeline that overlapped with Epstein network. Not adjacent, inside. She was inside. She describes long-term proximity, years of access to the people and the environment most of the public has only heard about from the outside, right? And she's not speaking carefully. She's saying there are connections the public doesn't know, that what's being presented publicly is incomplete, and that she has much, much more. That alone changes the conversation by a lot. But it gets heavier. She describes a system, not just individuals, where power, status, and access are tightly controlled, where immigration status can become or was leveraged, where the same people who open doors can also shut them closed. And then she brings it directly to herself. She claims her immigration situation was used against her. Well, we all know that ICE was part of that situation, but she's saying it became part of the pressure, that her personal conflict with people inside that circle didn't stay just personal. It became institutional, if you know what I mean. If that's true, that's not a scandal, that's a mechanism. And then the timing, Melania publicly denies any connection to Epstein. And right after that, someone who says she was there steps forward and says, well, there's more. That's an escalation. Not just speculation, escalation. This is no longer just about past associations. It's about whether someone from inside that world is about to start spilling the beans. And if she does, I don't think this is going to stay contained.
And so for everyone that keeps telling me to stop seeking out, whether you're a family member, whether you're a friend, like whatever, no, this is my First Amendment right. And most of you that are telling me to stop speaking out, you're all MAGA.
I get it, Victoria. My family doesn't like my voice either because they're MAGA. MAGA doesn't want the truth, Victoria. The only thing MAGA wants is to help in any way possible their dear leader. So don't you worry. The stink still has your back. Let's hear what else Victoria has to say. Watch.
I'm not going to stop seeking out. And I told this certain someone who is a man, and he told me to stop. And he said, you need to stop doing this. And I said, if you are at a business conference in front of thousands and thousands of people, would you go up on behalf of a woman who is speaking out and advocating for women's rights? Would you go up there on stage in front of thousands and rip the microphone away from her? And he said no. And I said, all right, then don't rip it away from me.
We're here, Victoria, to give you the stage, to give you the bullhorn, Instinct Nation, on my platforms, to speak your truth. And there ain't no MAGA gonna tell the stink what to do. And there isn't gonna be a MAGA to tell Victoria or any other survivor what to do. Not on my platform. And it's not just Victoria's voice. I did some digging on Victoria's platform to try to find some more information. And I came across another survivor that's speaking to Victoria. Let me show you. So while I was on Victoria's page, I was going through some comments, and then I came across Betty Jo, who apparently is another survivor. I did an interview with Italian journalist about my modeling experience and what I know about Paolo Zampoli. Really weird how his name just keeps coming up, right? Real weird. It's coming out this weekend. Justice for Amanda Ungaro and Victoria. This is where it gets interesting. I am being shut down by TT. I can't really say what TT is, but we all know what TT is. For telling the truth about my own experiences. And then when so many people want to say, why haven't you spoken out before? I start screaming since the 80s, if only people listened. So apparently she's been saying this a long time. This is Betty Jo's modeling pictures from the 80s and 90s. I went to her page. They've been screaming this into social media for a long time, but for some reason, their content isn't going anywhere. So the stink is going to help give it a little push. This statement was put out by Paolo Zampoli. Now remember, he's in the administration, so he made a notice to all media outlets. My son and I are victims of an extortion attempt by a John Doe family. Reported on April 6th to the FBI and Miami-Dade police. This matter is under active investigation. Any disinformation or defamatory statements made against us for financial or political gain will be pursued and addressed in the fullest extent of the law. Really, Paolo? Victoria responded, I didn't accept your dirty money under the table to stay silent because I abide by the law. You then released this on all your socials. I have no intention of political or financial gain. This is for justice. I don't want your dirty money. The way you said you would use federal money and pay me off and register it as fake Mar-a-Lago drone project and the rest would come out of Geo's trust out of Panama and Cayman Islands. As your ex Amanda Ungaro has said, I will tear down the system. Now you officially have the two of us to deal with. I love it, ladies. So now we have Victoria, Amanda, and Betty Jo all coming out to tell their truths. And Stink Nation is here for you. Victoria also dropped this little breadcrumb on her page, picturing this guy. But it was the caption that drew my attention. Look, last post for the day, but while we're at it, wait until I tell you the truth about the situation after the current saga ends. As MAGA is trying to shut down the voices of these survivors, it is up to us to continue their voices, to give them the megaphone. Continue believing the survivors and listening to their truths. Guys, tell me what you think about this in the comments. And if you haven't followed me yet, please do. Have a day!
People have messaged and commented today asking what the big bombshell was from the Amanda Angaro story that Courier News did that was on EpsteinCoverup.us. And it's really three things. So if you didn't catch it, I'm going to give them to you here really easily. One, Paolo Zampoli was 32 years old when he started pursuing Amanda Angaro when she was 15. Second, Melania Trump has always maintained that she came to the United States legally under a legal status and never worked as an illegal immigrant. Amanda Angaro says that's not the case, that she came here like many of the girls as an undocumented immigrant, had to work for photo shoots to make money, and was eventually given immigration status by some means that Paolo Zampoli would arrange for all these young girls. And third, maybe the most important, is that she is willing to testify about everything under oath to the House Oversight Committee, something neither Melania or Trump have done or suggested that they would do. Melania says the survivors should go and do that, but she's never herself suggested that she would. In fact, she's doing quite the opposite, fighting Michael Wolff to try and have the lawsuit moved to Florida that he filed against her in New York so that she does not have to testify under oath. That's what's so big. Now, the article has lots of other things that are very important, very crucial to all this, but those are the main ones. Let me know what you think about this, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
So I've spent over a decade independently researching, learning, studying political science. And a lot of people, the most frequent question I get is, when are you going to make a video about the Epstein files? Have you talked about the Epstein files? Like, why don't you have anything about the Epstein files? I want to be very clear. It's not because the victims of Jeffrey Epstein don't deserve justice. They absolutely do. But everyone's freaking out about the Epstein files. Donald Trump's in the Epstein files. And I want everyone to pause for a second and actually think about how this works. The US government doesn't declassify information randomly to enlighten you. Okay? That's not what declassification is. Information gets released when it's no longer a threat to national security, or more importantly, when it's no longer useful as a secret. That means that what you're seeing right now is already controlled. And if you've seen the files, they're heavily redacted. So you're not even getting the full picture anyway. So what exactly was the point in releasing it? This is where political science comes in. Okay. It's a concept called agenda setting, which basically means that the government and the media, they don't tell you what to think, but they do tell you what to think about. By flooding the timeline with the Epstein files, they're directing public attention exactly where they want it. And there's another thing called manufactured consent, which is a term popularized by Noam Chomsky, which, funny enough, he's in the Epstein files. It's an idea that public opinion is essentially shaped and guided, not just naturally formed, and that people think that they're thinking freely, but the conversation itself is being created, like curated. And then there's limited hangout, which is when institutions release something truthful to prevent you from digging deeper to the full truth, and giving you just enough to satisfy your curiosity, but not enough to like expose everything. So you need to ask yourself, while we're dealing with the rising cost of living, people not affording housing, gas prices are going crazy. A huge portion of Americans are dissatisfied with the current administration. And suddenly what's dominating the conversation is the Epstein files. I'm not saying they don't matter. I'm just saying that you should absolutely be questioning why this is what's being pushed to the forefront right now and what is being ignored while you're focusing on it. Because in politics, distraction is never accidental. It's absolutely a strategy every time.
Amanda Ungaro did an interview with Courier Newsroom, and it's posted, it's up, so go check it out. There's stuff about Melania, Dumpy Pants, Zampoli, so go check it out. And it says that she really wants to testify in front of Congress, so go read the article. There's lots of good stuff in there.
Victoria Drake alleges she was drugged and in October 2023 by Paolo at his home. Text exchanges with her friend who contacted you.
Yes.
And she said, I reported it all to the NYPD. We're putting up the text exchange right now between Victoria and her friend. She said she reported it to the NYPD. She got a kit done. The hospital confirmed that she was drugged. The drugs were found in her system. She got Paolo to admit to it by phone. On a voice note, she recorded him admitting that he did this. The FBI asked her to wear a wire, but she got this done on her voice note. And then all of a sudden, the case is dropped out of nowhere. Literally, every receipt, everything you need, done, signed, sealed, delivered, jail for life, and then dropped.
Yep. And to my understanding, what Victoria was told is due to Paulo's diplomatic status, there's nothing that they can do and that she should just sue him.
Due to his diplomatic status, which is a total fraud. When did he get the diplomatic status? Was it in Trump's first administration?
He's been working for the UN since the late 2000s.
Okay, so before Trump, he finds his way to get one of these things. And they hand him out.
Yeah, and Amanda will talk about the kind of fraud that goes on with the diplomatic passports and the UN stuff. It's just real sleazy, really pay to play.
He's an ambassador to Dominica. He's not even from Dominica, he's from Italy, but gets handed this ambassador to Dominica thing, which means you can go and you can people because you're going to be very hard to prosecute. What a scumbag. But also, Amanda, when Amanda's through all of this, one of the things that needs to change, and the next president needs to deliver this, is I don't care what ambassadorial thing you hold. You are prosecutable here in this country for any type of sex crime or any crime.
Every time. I agree. And it's also, it's really crazy to me because his diplomatic home that he like lives in, his diplomatic residence.
In Gramercy Park, is this the one in New York?
Yes. That's where
And there's a
this happened.
sign on the door that says diplomatic residence. Basically, I'm immune.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want. And he has like audio and video recording everywhere. And if I sent this over also, but he rents out those rooms as well.
He's like an Airbnb, this guy. He's such a scumbag.
Yeah. It's like, is that even legal for when you have diplomatic immunity? That doesn't seem like a very safe thing for a tenant to be in a place where you can't be held to account for anything.
See what this one is saying. Hmm.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.